Hey, what's up, world? It's your boy Big Court of the Holding Court Podcast and No Limit Forever. You already know what it is, man. Tap into my episode on I Only Touch Greatness. It's going to be an explosive one. Salute.
Looking for the most beers on tap? Great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say Hayes sent you.
The number one sports podcast in Vancouver with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike are taking over the podcast scene in Vancouver. Get down or lay down. Lay down. Lay down.
Growing up in KC, what was childhood like for you growing up?
Well, you know, man, to be honest with you, dude, I had a great childhood. You know, I grew up Kansas City, Missouri, 64130. I'm from the 4 block. I was raised by strong women, educated women, only child. You know, I had a beautiful childhood, to be honest with you. Even though we were in the hood, you know, my household was full of love and support. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I didn't. You know, by God's grace, I didn't have to deal with poverty and things like that as a kid, you know. So, but more importantly, past, you know, any material stuff, you know, I had love. So I had a great childhood.
And being that this is a sports podcast, when Prince isn't joining me, did you play any sports growing up?
Man, I did. I was an avid basketball player. I actually played point guard. I ran track, I did gymnastics, I did martial arts. One thing that a lot of people don't know about me is that, you know, I used to want to be a professional BMXer. Like, I loved BMX growing up.
Oh, you wanted to be a BMXer?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
I can see that.
I had subscriptions to BMX Plus. I had subscriptions to freestyling. I had a Mongoose back in like 88. And I wanted to my plan was to get sponsored by Mongoose. I'm like 10, 11 years old, already with this plan in my head. I wanted to get sponsored by Mongoose and then, you know, start designing my own bikes. So that was really a love of mine growing up. You know, even in the hood, I was in the newspaper way back in the day for being one of the few black kids in the inner city that was into BMX.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean,
Really?
You're obviously lifting. I see these pictures of you and these shirts and shit, and they're all like tight on you. There's nowhere to go. Like,
he really thought that you was gonna be on live, like usually you shirtless when you do your lives. So he thought that you was gonna be, you know, shirtless, cooking egg whites, you know, as usual.
Hey, listen, it's a lot of people, man. It's a method to that. To be honest with you, dude. Most of the shit that I do on live, I say all of it. I'm usually very intentional with what I do, man. I just be rolling up out of bed. I don't do this shit on purpose. If I roll up out of bed with a shirt on, that's how you gonna see me on live.
I mean, that's the thing. You're comfortable where you're at. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing about being live. Like, even when I go live, even though I don't get that many followers or, you know, many views, well, I be going live on the wrong times and shit. I'll be on live when everybody's working, and I'll just be like, oh shit, I forget motherfuckers is over here working today, and I just wanted to go live. So I understand that. I can believe that. So back in KC, you know what I mean? Like, you know, coming from the 40s, you know what I mean? What you always represent, like, from the 4 block, like, what type of song or type of CD? And I know what you're gonna say, you know what I mean? Because I know you're Ice-T. You know what I mean? Like, head. So what was one of the other songs, like, albums that inspired you to do what you know, wanted to rap?
Well, you know, showing my age, I'm older than what people think that I am, but Ice-T was the first gangster rap record that I heard, which was Squeeze the Trigger. NWA, Eazy-E. Eazy-E really inspired me a whole lot. That's because, you know, I was always artistic and creative. So I used to write my mother poems when I was young. And so kind of intrinsically, it transitioned into, you know, some type of form of written expression with rap. You know what I mean? So a lot of my early songs and raps that I was writing in school were in the cadence of Eazy-E. So, you know, my early influences was definitely Eazy-E, Ice-T, Ghetto Boys. Early on.
Right. Which is good though, because, you know, I love Eazy-E and I love Ice-T. And when I seen you, you know, doing that interview with Ice-T, like I was blown away more than anybody because I was amped. I was like, ah, shit, he was motherfucking the Iceman, like for real, like, you know. Coming from here, man, like a lot of people don't understand. Like in the Midwest, we love the fuck out of colors. Like we love the fuck out of hip hop. Like I be talking to like a lot of people on Clubhouse, and I be like, man, you gotta remember, like a lot of people. That's why, like, so many fucking songs and albums came out in Midwest, and a lot of people wanted to come to Midwest is because we used to have it. And it just blew my mind not too long ago that somebody just said the reason why one of the songs got broke over there in New York is with Sugar Hill Gang was they took it to Midwest, which they said they took it to Kansas City and Missouri. And I was just like, wow, that's fucking crazy. So we always had this history, you know what I mean? Yeah, and coming out of here, man, like who was the first rapper, you know what I'm saying? Your first friend that made you want to you know, do rap.
You say it one more time, the end part.
What type of, you know, who was the first rapper that you know, started, you know, writing rhymes with?
Oh, you mean as far as locally in Kansas City?
Yeah, in Kansas City, like the first person you know, saying
okay,
you just had an idea, you was just like, yo, you know what I mean? Let me go ahead and spit these, you know.
That's a funny question. So
good one.
My friend from my old block, his name was Hank, right? And for all intents and purposes, Hank was probably on the spectrum. You know, we didn't have the language back then of autism, or you know, you just had slow kids. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And every group, every neighborhood got one, right? And I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. I have a son with special needs on the spectrum, so I'm totally in the know of that, right?
Right.
So Hank, but he was very, very high functioning, right? So Hank, me and Hank, he used to go by the name Clownster Mac. Yeah, Clownster Mac was his name. So me and him, I actually started, like, we weren't a group, but we both started rapping. This is way back in the day. We would have one radio playing the instrumental and then be recording on the other radio. You know, we didn't know nothing about studios or 4-track recorders or nothing like that. So I would say Hank, man. Hank was the first one that I started experimenting with in terms of trying to record and figure out rap. We didn't understand song structure. We didn't understand chorus. We didn't understand none of that. We just knew we loved the culture and we wanted to emulate what we seen them doing. So I would say Hank. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I started, because I used to be an A&R. So I always was in music. I was doing mixtapes back in the day, the same way you were saying there. You play it on one and you record it onto the other.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to like rewind the tape back and forth to cue it up, and you hold the pause button down until CD player just plays it at the right second.
Right.
I started doing that.
I was gonna say, God forbid you couldn't find a clean instrumental, because if you tried to get a space where in a song with a beat, you had to like loop it, but manually, you know, and try to catch it right at the beat so it wouldn't glitch. You know, these kids they would know nothing about that.
No, exactly. I always try to tell them about like even Napster and stuff, being able to find stuff like that back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like, all kinds of stuff like that.
I remember people used to try to rap on a fucking sock and shit with a fucking little thing and shit. Like motherfuckers was trying to fucking rap. Period. Like
when you're starting out, though, when you're starting out, everybody doesn't know, and you have to learn these things through practice. Gaining knowledge.
And knowledge, right?
Trial and error, and you got to think in that era. You got to think. So you know, I'm 46. So in that era of the late 80s and the early 90s, you know, there was no internet. So, we didn't have access, especially in Kansas City. There's no industry. So it's not even the conversation of you can ask people, it's not, everybody's not going to a studio or trying to be a rapper and entertainer. It's not like now. So
Right.
back then, where I hooked up with Cisco in ninth grade, who was the other part of CCG,
Right.
he already kind of innately had this knowledge and kind of knew his way around electronics and shit like that. It was just something he was gifted with. So he understood sampler keyboards. He used to steal. A lot of people don't know, when we made our demo tapes, it was in my room, but it was equipment that Cisco would finesse and jack people for. He would literally rob people for their equipment because we needed mixers, the mics, the little recorders, all the little shit that he knew that we needed. He went out there and made that happen. He would finesse people, and it's people on Facebook. It's funny. Shout out to Lavander. He's a Facebook friend of mine, and Cisco got him for a keyboard when we was in ninth grade. And he left me a message, was like, "Hey, I never got my keyboard back. I'm glad to see that y'all put it to use and made something of yourself." But Cisco used to track everybody.
What age were you when you wanted to, or you knew that you wanted to start taking it serious?
I say probably, I played with it, 12, 13 years old, 14, but I went to jail at 15. So I say probably when I got out of jail is when I started so about 16, 17 is when I really start kind of leaning into it, because I got street poison, so that played a factor too. I got, I got street poison probably about 14, 15. So all in that little, but when I got out, I had to figure something out. But it was a passion though. It wasn't something like it was a quick hustle. It was actually a dream of mine.
Dream, right. And speaking of dreams, man, because you don't even know this, because my cousin Steve, and I think I told you this before, my cousin Steve is S2TheB, which you used to do a lot of music with.
That.
Yeah. Science, my cousin. Yeah, Science, my cousin.
Wow.
Yeah, Science Brown is. So, like, coming over there, I remember used to always seeing stuff, right? Like, whenever they came down, like, because there's only twice, too many, like, maybe three times I might seen them at that time whenever I was a kid. Like, and I remember he had the CDs and stuff, and I think you might have came to Richmond one time with him. Like, at that generation of rapping, because it was a handful of rappers at that time, like especially in KC, that really wanted to do it. Like, how was it just working with Steve and shit? You know what I mean? And how much impact in KC at that time for everybody to grow, because at that time it was hard, because like you said, it wasn't no studios, and when people did have a studio, a lot of people were trying to get in. So tell everybody about that.
Yeah, shout out to S2TheB, man. That's my brother. To the point to where S2TheB was a pallbearer at my mother's funeral. He actually, helped carry my mother to her final resting place. So that's how close me and S2TheB are. So yeah, man, like back in the day, to contextualize, studios weren't like now. Studios were hella expensive. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We talking 90s. I started in the early 90s.
Right.
And so once, I got to No Limit in 1995. Me and my group mate Cisco CCG, we signed a No Limit. Right. So after our little stint with No Limit, I start putting out independent records, which is where I came across S2TheB. So I came across S2TheB was already a street figure. He was already kind of known in the streets for getting money. So then him and shout out to Rodney Money Green.
Shout out to him.
Yeah, the OG. They had their little movement, because actually they had got Vel Bacardi. They had put Vel Bacardi out at that time.
No shit.
So, yeah. Vel Bacardi had went with I can't remember the record label, but shout out to Rodney Green. But S2TheB was a part of that team. And so this is when me and Cisco split. And when I say split, I don't necessarily mean we broke up.
Yeah.
But he moved away. He was doing life and taking care of his life. I still wanted to kind of pursue music. So that's when I went solo. So even though I
Right.
did Pull and Rank, he produced all of Pull and Rank. But
Whew.
when he moved away, I was left to my own devices. So that's where you see the emergence of S2TheB, because S2TheB produced probably 60% of Kansas City Chief. And
No shit.
I recorded most of it at S2TheB studio too. So that's where S2TheB
Wow.
came to play. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that. You just blew my mind because I was just listening to the what was it, Good Things, and I heard him rapping on it. I was like, you.
Yeah. Yep. S2TheB produced, like I said, I might be lowballing it. He produced the majority of Kansas City Chief, but I want to say S2TheB recorded all. I recorded all of Kansas City Chief with S2TheB. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
So I've been wondering who produced it, because you know we couldn't read that much. You had to have the CD, and it's been a long time since I had that Kansas City Chief CD. And matter of fact, it's crazy because in that Kansas City Chief, it was actually on a magazine too. Was it? What didn't you have like a magazine ad on there, like Source or Double XL or something?
I was in Double XL, Murder Dog. I was in oh my God,
Yep.
I can't even remember. I was in several magazines back then.
So many.
That's what I be telling these internet trolls, man. I was somebody before social media. I was already somebody, you know. So yeah, I was in several magazines back then. Yeah.